Hey everyone, it's Mark Ferguson with InvestorMore, and this is my 1994 Baltic Blue Toyota Supra twin turbo 6-speed. So I'm going to show you this car inside and out, talk about how I bought it, why I bought it, and go for some test drives as well. It does have the Targa top, so we'll take that off and show you that too. As you can tell, it does not have stock wheels. Not my favorite, but they're okay. And we'll have a lot of fun with this video. Now, before we get into it, Invest for More is real estate. That's my real estate channel, and that is what has allowed me to buy the 99 Diablo Alpine Edition, the Porsche 928, the Lotus Esprit V8 twin turbo, and I've also got a 1981 Aston Martin V8 Volante, and I have videos of all of those cars on my channel, so be sure to check those out. I'll link to them below. I also have a 1991 Mustang 5.0 convertible that is another one of my commercial properties right now. Don't have a video of that one yet, but hopefully soon. And I've got an Audi S4 over there that you can see that's a lot of fun too. All right, so this Supra was something I've wanted to own for 20 some years. I had 3 Mark III Supras, which was a model before this car, an 87 non-turbo, which was the first car I ever bought on my own. It was blue, 5-speed, bought it for like $4,500 when 1996, something like that, when I was in high school. Then I had a 90 non-turbo and a 90 turbo 5-speed Targa top. And that was a fun car, except I did end up blowing the engine on it twice. So that was not good. But I always wanted one of these. Test drove one of them when they were new. I did not get to drive it, but I did get a ride in it, and just have loved them forever. And I probably would have bought one sooner, but actually kind of got a little turned off by them after the Fast and the Furious movies, just because they kind of became this, I mean, they're still really cool, but just, I wasn't into the modified, crazy exterior scene as much. I was into the power and speed scene, and that turned me off from it when so many people kind of turned these Supras into something that wasn't my cup of tea, we'll say that. But I did get over it. I still love this car, and it's a lot of fun. So it's almost completely stock, has an exhaust, these wheels, and I think like an HKS radiator, and that is about it. So we'll do some test drives, show you what these cars are like, mostly stock, and then maybe someday we'll do some modifications on it. And it actually came in the middle of a snowstorm. So that was a few days ago. We got close to a foot, if not a foot of snow, and we were unloading it right out there in the middle of the road. And it was pretty interesting and fun. What do you think? First drive in the Supra. Not the best conditions ever, but the roads are fairly dry. Hey, one thing I have always loved about these cars is the interior. My son is being crazy over there. See him? But the interior just feels like it's wrapped around you. It doesn't look as exciting as I remember it being, 20 some years ago. But it's all geared towards the driver. It's not geared towards, the passenger. It's pretty simple compared to what I remember. But a lot of people put the boost gauges in, all kinds of stuff you can add to it. And this car is very clean. It has 121,000 miles, and we paid $57,000 for it from Certified Motors in Florida. That was an okay transaction. Had a few hiccups. We might talk about that, but still super stoked about this car, and it's a pretty good price even with those miles. And it's kind of funny because people tell me, you just bought a 26-year-old Toyota with 121,000 miles for $57,000? I say, yep, Sure did. I'd do it again. One casualty is the antenna. I drove into my garage. As you can see, the lifts are right there. And went in too far with the radio on, and so it bent the antenna back. I tried to bend it back a little bit without getting too crazy, but it does not go down all the way. Here is the engine compartment. Like I said, almost all stock. So it does have the big, fat, obnoxious exhaust on it. It's not crazy loud, but a little loud. And I'll have a video too that shows of the car coming to me off the truck in the middle of a snowstorm in Colorado. So that's kind of interesting to see it showing up that way. Here's the top. You unscrew that with that tool here, and there's 4 places plus a central locking spot. And you lift it up, and then you can put it in the trunk. So there is the roof in the trunk. It's kind of tricky to get in there. You have to kind of push it forward far enough to get the bottom in, and then you can set down the top, the front part, and then kind of finagle it in there. So it's not easy until you figure out exactly how to jigsaw puzzle it in there. So I have a cool little camera attached to my forehead right now. So I am not driving one-handed. I am driving safely, and hopefully it does not fly off my head. So I will try to go slowly with my head movements. Now, I mentioned I bought this car from Certified Motors in Tampa. It was an okay experience. I wouldn't say it was amazing. Some of the issues were, took about a month to actually get the bill of sale after I bought it, so that was a little frustrating. I actually had an appointment to go get the car registered, and I never got the bill of sale on time to actually do that. So that was kind of frustrating. And then took about a week to get a hold of them in the first place to even talk about the car and get information on the car. So that was a little frustrating as well. And then there were some things that weren't right on it. I mean, honestly, I should have done a PPI, I did not. So I had lots of videos. Some people said they knew about the car, but the front turn signals weren't working when I got it. And one of them, you know, the left one, I got fixed by just plugging in the cord. And the right one is still not fixed because I could not get into it to plug that cord in. It was just not accessible. So that was kind of frustrating. The transmission, it's a 6-speed transmission. It's not as smooth as I think it should be, so I need to get that looked at. It is leaking transmission fluid too, so we got to be very careful. This transmission is a very good transmission, also a very expensive transmission, so we do not want to break it. Of course, I'm going to be driving it a little hard for this video. Hopefully it doesn't break while we're doing the video. You can really feel the boost kick in at the top of the RPM range there. When I first had it, it came from Florida, I'm in Colorado. It did not feel that fast at all. And I don't know if it just had to kind of acclimate to the air, the oxygen up here, the lower oxygen. But even stock, you can kind of hear the air suck through the engine. I don't know how well you guys can hear that in the video, but and it does suck through gas pretty quickly. Of course, I also drive it like it was meant to be driven, so that could be part of that as well. I mentioned I blew the engine on my other Supras, and I did do that. Those Supras had head gasket problems, and I was dumb. I did not get mine retorqued when I first bought it, even though I knew about it. I was just lazy. I was in high school, and we blew the head gasket, fixed the head gasket, and then the engine actually blew shortly after that because it wasn't fixed right. Got a replacement engine from Japan and ended up doing the same thing, except that time I'd pumped up the boost and done some other stuff to help it along its way. You can really feel the transmission pop there a little bit. So that's kind of what I mean. I'm not sure it's working all the way, and I try not to do that. I'm usually driving it much smoother than that if I'm not, you know, showing off in a video. Here's the car with the top off. My favorite way to have it. If you're wondering why I love these cars so much, I mentioned I had two of the older Supras, which had like 200 horsepower without the turbo, 232 horsepower with the turbo. This came out in '93 and had 320 horsepower, which was just a ton of power for a car from that time period. And it wasn't the fastest car in the world, but for a Toyota sports car, I mean, that was pretty crazy to have that much power. And just driving it, you know, it just felt so much faster than other cars I'd ridden in. You know, 0 to 60 was listed from anywhere from 4.6 to 5 in most magazines, and it's just such a fun car. Has a 6-speed, and then you can just modify these engines like crazy really easily. You know, without much work, you can get these up to 600 horsepower with the stock internals. A lot of people push them over 1,000 horsepower, you know, doing quite a bit more work, but they can just be monster power makers. A lot of people take the twin turbos off and put single turbos on, and that's why they really built such a reputation and became kind of a cult classic. Okay, I'm out in the middle of nowhere now, sort of, because I really do look ridiculous with my little camera headband on, as you can see. But you can also see the top is off. Cool breeze. This Colorado spring day. Hopefully, if I bend over, you didn't know this before, but I was kind of hunching over to give you the best view. We can show you what it's like to drive with the top off. Don't worry, I'm looking in my mirror. Bad. It's a little noisy in here, as you can see. If I stand up here, I'm probably going to stick my head above the roof. I do have plenty of headroom here. It's just a tiny bit tight. I'm 6'1", but it's not really uncomfortable unless I'm wearing a really weird phone headband. And then if we roll the windows up, it gets noticeably quieter, and it's got these weird kind of windbreaker things that sort of whistle. I don't know if they're more annoying or not than they should be. This may look familiar because we were just here a little while ago. I'll try and be a little nicer to the transmission though. Yeah, we're cruising at 72 or so. It's a little noisy, but really not bad. We put the windows down. You know, it's definitely noisy, but it's kind of fun. I've always liked convertibles and Targa tops and cars like that, so it doesn't bother me any. hopefully this phone headband thing is strong enough that my phone does not go flying off my head and land on the highway to be run over like 30 different times behind me. Taking the Supra on its first dirt road ever, probably not the most advisable thing to do, but dirt roads can be fun. We'll try not to rally car into a ditch. Pulling in under the lift is always a little stressful. I did have the Lotus even lower before, so it just looked like you're going to hit it every time. I've gotten used to it now. Haven't run into the sides of it too many times. There you go. Pretty simple. Here's what the Lotus looks like with the top off on the Supra. It doesn't leak, so that's good. But I do have the drip trays right there, just in case. One really nice thing about this car is it is kid-friendly, right, Irely? Is it kid-friendly? Hi! Yes. But I have 8-year-old twins, and they do fit in the back seat, although it's tight. And I have to move my seat up, way up, so I'm a little crunched. But I can take the kids to school in the morning in this car, whereas my other cars, I cannot, because they have airbags, only 2 seats, or the Porsche there doesn't have shoulder belts in back. Alright, so that was our little video on the Supra. It's tucked away where it goes, underneath the Lotus. That's a really fun car too. Next to the 928. And then there's the Diablo right there. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys liked the video. We'll see if we do any modifications or not. We might do a few, we'll see. Some really cool Supra guys around here that have been really helpful to me. So they might convince me to do a few things. And of course, check out investormore.com or my other videos on here if you want to learn more about real estate, rental properties, house flipping, being an agent, all kinds of other good stuff. Thanks for watching. We appreciate all the likes, comments, and subscriptions. So send those our way.